Today's product can be purchased at One Digitals. Go to onedigitals.co.uk or check them out on Facebook at One Digitals. Hi everyone, welcome back to HowTechs. Today we have a special unboxing. We have the JME drone by Feima. And this is a drone from China. It's a pretty new one and it's competing mostly with the DJI Spark. So it's a gimbal stabilization, IIFC flight control system, basically using GPS, 23 minutes flight time. So that's one thing that it differentiates it from the Spark, is that it's basically twice as long as that one's battery. Can do 4K Ultra HD video recording, and one of the issues with this is it's not actually 24 or 30 frames per second, it's only 20 frames per second. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. We have IPRV machine vision and voice interaction. And as you can see, quadcopter with this nice white top. We have an iPhone app, and I believe there's also an Android app as well. So we'll take a look at that as well. So it comes in a nice quality box with this pull tab on top, and we can slide it out and take a look inside. So it comes in this nice foam storage system, and if we pull this away we can see the drone itself. So we have here on the right, we have the power brick. This one actually uses not a USB charger like the DJI, but it uses this proprietary plug that has basically, plugs into the wall. And just in case you were wondering, it does work on all voltages, 100 to 240, and the output is 17.4 volts. So that's why you need something like this, and USB is not going to cut it. What else we got in here? We have, comes with this bag that's supposed to hold your propellers, and in here we have a couple accessories as well, some documentation, warnings, warranty, etc. What's in the package. We have these things, which I think they actually call them chafing mats. English is not so great on these documents, but basically these are pads that will go on the bottom of the drone because it doesn't have landing legs. So if you want to be able to land on, say, concrete or something without scuffing up your battery, you get these nice 3M sticky foam pads. And then we have this, which is to unscrew, it's to hold your motor when you're unscrewing the propellers. So you might need this if it's tied, screwed on too tight. Let's move this stuff out of the way and get to the drone itself. Okay, so here we are with the JME, and of course by Feima. So we got the logo, we got this. This is actually containing your gimbal camera. It's just a protector so that it doesn't jostle around and damage the suspension. So here's our camera. We're going to be very careful with it. So we have two axes. We have this axis and this axis, and obviously the device itself is also axis. And then there's this damper here. This is the suspension. So it seems pretty soft, but not too bad. Okay, and we have our 4 motors, and then we have some sensors on here. On the bottom we have our downward facing sensor. This is actually the speaker, because this one has voice control. It talks to you. And we have, I think this is the ultrasonic sensor for checking the altitude. And then we have our warning lights, and it's actually very similar to the Spark if you used it, but just kind of a different form factor. And for the battery, this entire thing is the battery, and it pinches out, and the battery is actually pretty sizable. Let's see, so it uses that same proprietary plug. This is what that plug goes into to charge, and this guy is 3,000 milliamp hours, which is basically why it lasts twice as long as a Spark, because the battery is actually more than twice as big. I think that's a 1400, this is a 3000. So this one snaps in, locks in, and as I mentioned before, those pads are because this has this curved bottom with no landing feet. So pad, you can put a pad right here so that this thing doesn't scrape on the ground when it lands. Let's see what else. Anything else? We have a USB, and this is a USB-C plug, and you can use that to offload the files from the internal storage. This one doesn't have a removable micro SD card. And then we have the power button. So to activate this one, you push it once to get it to blink, and then you push it again and hold it for 3 seconds to get it to turn on, and we'll do that in a second. Let's see what else we got in the box. Last but not least, we have our USB-C cable USB that's used to transfer files on and off. I'm pretty sure based on the voltages this can't be used to charge anything, so just use it for files. And we have our propellers, and so one's already coming out, and you notice there's actually 2 different colors. I think you guys can see. So we have green ones and we have green ones and we have red ones. And on the JME itself, you can see there's green posts on the propeller shaft and also red ones. Should be able to see that. So that's a red and that's a green. And the reason why is because these guys go counterclockwise and these ones go clockwise when you screw them on. And there's a little arrow on here as well. So let's put on a normal clockwise one. So once it's screwed in, then you can actually feel that the motor is engaging the rotor on the motor. And now the other guy, it goes the opposite direction, and so there we go. So this one's screwed all the way in as well. And so that's basically it. You're ready to go. So you can just put it on a flat surface. Let's just put it up here so you guys can see it. And there you go. And so to power it on, let's try it out. So the fan comes on, does some initialization, it beeps. You can tell the motor is twitching. These guys will blink and do different colors to give you different information. It'll actually warn you if your battery's too low, etc., and then it will go through some configuration and ask you to calibrate. So yeah, let's see. Once it gets set up, it actually talks to you as well. So now we're ready to go when it's blinking green here. If it's okay, so for those who don't speak Chinese, I don't think there's a way at present to get this thing to switch to English, but for the current firmware, it shouts out to you in Chinese once in a while, and what that basically said was that the drone is ready to is initiated. So we're basically in standby mode right now, and then the next step, if you have your smartphone, you can connect to it. So to connect to it, you want to open up your JME Fly app if you've downloaded it, but before you do that, you have to make sure that you are connected to the correct Wi-Fi. So you should see available networks, and you can see the JME 07DG, which is the serial number for this particular one, but it should be JME something, and just touch that and it'll take a second to connect. And in this case, I've already connected to it with the password. The password for these is all JMEs. The default one is JME 12345, and then you can edit that once you've paired and whatnot. So once you're connected, just open the JME Fly app, and it'll give you a warning if it's not properly connected. In this case, it is. So you can then do setup, and you can adjust different parameters, etc. If you have a separate remote, you can pair it there, and you can adjust. Here's where you can adjust the information on the Wi-Fi. So as I said, JME 12345 is the default, and then if you want to give it a specific name rather than this randomly generated default one, you can do that as well. When you first open this, it actually asks you to create an ID, and so you have to actually confirm with your phone number. I think it's because it's China, they require you to identify yourself by your phone number. So you have to include a phone number and email address, and it'll give you a verification code. And in this case, you can set up a profile. This is kind of new to us. We never tried this before, but basically you're setting up a profile, and then you have to go through and do different tasks to sort of prove your competence before it lets you do all the functions, which is actually a good idea. So it won't let you do voice commands, for example, until you've actually flown it around and you have proven that you know how to use this thing and you're not going to crash into something. So some of the things that it asks you to do is basically watch. First thing, you have to watch this warning video, which is also entirely in Chinese. So if you don't speak Chinese, you can pretty much guess what's going on. It says like, don't fly into power lines and things like that. And then also shows your flight time and flight mileage. So we haven't even taken this thing outside to fly it yet. And you can change your picture and all that. Unfortunately, this is all in Chinese. Maybe we'll do a separate video where we explain what all this is for those of you who can't read Chinese. But as you can tell, their English is not so great. The account security. So, okay, so that's the basics. And then here on the flight thing, it forces you again to read all this stuff. Stay away from viaducts. Don't go over the water. Obviously, don't hit any crowds. Stay away from no-fly zones, power, etc. And then there's a basic intro to the different things on the screen. So it's similar to the DJI one. And then they have this lock button, which is sort of like a kill switch. So if you double tap that, it will basically just turn itself off and go straight down to the ground. So I guess that's like if you see it about to hit some power lines or something like that, you can just have it and you can't control it. You can basically do like a kill switch. And then also it tells you how to do calibration. And this is also very similar to a lot of other drones. Just to get the accelerometers and the gravitometers, etc. correct, it forces you to basically rotate it through 360 degrees on all three axes, just so it figures out which way is down and whatnot, which way is north. So that's basically it. And so you can see, this is the view from the camera. So let's take a look. So in this case, it's actually asking us to do a calibration, which we'll skip. But you can still control the camera, so you can do a video. As you can see, we can do a video. You can take pictures, etc. You can see some of the other basic information. So that's the basic intro. We'll do a couple separate how-to videos on how to pair, how to calibrate, etc. So if you're interested in more detail on the Jamie by Feima, please check those out. If you have any other questions, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you next time here on HowTechs. Thanks and bye. So these should be basically self-tightening. So as the helicopter's going, the force will push it to tighten. And when you want to